Who's that? Commander Claw. Who's bad? Commander Claw.
Welcome back to another episode of Breaking Brews. I am your host, Commander Claw. Welcome to all you new level beginners, old timers, veteran commander players, or Magic the Gathering players in general. I am Commander Claw. I just want to bring y'all a new commander today. It is Ghalta the Stampeding Tyrant. And on this Breaking Brews series, my goal is to change your opinion about the commander or expand on the idea that you originally had. And Ghalta is she's one of the most favorite creatures out there, dinosaurs. So let's talk about Ghalta. Pretty much for 8 mana, 5 colors, 3 green. It's legendary Elder Dinosaur, 12/12 with Trample. It says when Ghalta's Stampede Tyrant enters the battlefield, put any number of creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. So, first off, it is a mono green commander. You can choose to have him as a mono green commander. But I think most players use him in multicolored decks because he is a powerful card to slap down creatures onto the battlefield for 8 mana. And that is definitely a great way to cheat out creatures. So, with this Breaking Brew series, I'm going to stay mostly on the track of a mono green commander. And what you really need to focus on is probably the ruling on resolving triggers because I think most new players really don't understand that. So real quick, Galta is a summon spell, right? Then he has an ability that says when Galta Stampede Tyrant enters the battlefield, it's an ETB. So you can cast Galta, then put his ability on the stack. Remember that. Put that ability on the stack. Let's move on. All right. Does it work with? This section is where you guys get to tell me, does this card work or does it not work with this card? Explain why or share why. But I guarantee this card works. First up, it is Greater Good. Yes, super popular. One of the main sources for card draw in green. It is for 2 colors, 2 green. It is an enchantment that reads sacrifice a creature. Draw cards equal to the sacrifice creature's power, then discard 3 cards. Okay. In the very first segment, I told you about resolving triggers. How you play this card with Galta is super important. So let me tell you, you cast Galta, okay? You cast him for 8 mana. You put the trigger on the stack. His trigger is the ETB trigger, okay? So that means you got Galta on the battlefield, then his trigger on the stack. Then you activate the greater good trigger. You sacrifice a creature to draw cards equal to the sacrifice creature's power, then discard 3 cards. Since Galt is already on the battlefield, you can sacrifice him to draw 12 cards and discard 3 cards. Then, so this ability resolves. Then Galta's trigger resolves, which says when he enters the battlefield, put that many cards into play. So what has happened is you have put Galt on the battlefield. You are putting the trigger on the stack of this ETB. You sack him to greater good. You draw 12 more cards, discard 3, and you got 12 more cards to put onto the battlefield because of Galta's trigger, which says put any number of creatures onto the battlefield. Yes, that's a little bit of deck tech for y'all. Moving on. So let's say you don't have greater good in your hand. Well, we have the exact same card. It's called Momentous Fall. Pretty much for 2 colors, 2 green. It's an instant. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sack a creature. You draw cards equal to the sacrifice creature's power. Then you gain life equal to its toughness. So draw 12 cards and gain 12 life. Okay, no brainer. Moving on. So when you're playing mono green, you're going to have a tough time against other colors. So you want to protect your creatures upon casting. Here we go. Savage Summoning actually is for 1 green mana. It says Savage Summoning can't be countered. The next creature you cast this turn can be cast as though it has flash. That spell can't be countered. That creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter. So Savage Summoning can't be countered. Your creature that you cast, which is Ghalta, can't be countered. And it comes with a +1/+1 counter. So you bringing in a 13/13 that can't be countered, and the instant sorcery instant spell cannot be countered. You're gonna need cards like this if you're running mono green, because those blue players will be out there waiting to counter it. The only thing you really have to fear are bounce spells. What else? Commandeer. Yeah, Commandeer is a nasty blue spell. If you don't know what that is, it pretty much takes your card. Moving on. Okay, my favorite segment, politics as usual. If you don't know by now, Breaking Brews, check out the Jay-Z song on Reasonable Doubt album. That's what inspired this segment. You tell me how to, oh, actually, I tell you how to win politically with these cards. And I encourage you to add political pieces to your deck. So let's move on. I know. In the beginning of the video, I said I would like to focus mainly on mono green. However, if you are running red with Ghalta in your deck, a really good, really interesting political card would be Pandemonium. For 3 colors and 1 red, it says whenever a creature enters the battlefield, that creature's controller may have it deal damage equal to its power to target creature or player of his or her choice. Okay, well, you have Ghalta. That's already a 12/12. If you have more creatures in your hand, you can do as much damage as you would like. Also, your opponents can do it too. So literally, you can gang up on an opponent and they never saw the damage coming. Never saw it coming because you had other players contribute to doing damage to a certain player. And you slap out 3 creatures onto the battlefield, minimum 12/12. Come on, man. Come on, man. What we doing out here? What we doing out here? We trying to win. That's what we trying to do. Moving on to win cons. Let me know if this win con actually works for you, or you actually have another win con for Ghalta that you like to share with others. Moving on. Okay, this card is from the Fallout Precon deck. It's called Power Fist. It is an artifact equipment for 1 colors, 1 green. I'll read it. It says equipped creature has trample, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, put that many +1/+1 counters on it. Equip cost 2. This is simple, straightforward. You swing with Ghalta, whatever damage you do to an opponent, you put that many +1/+1 counters on it. Remember, Ghalta has trample. Okay, come back. You can do lethal, 21 damage easily if you have enough counters on it. It's simple, straightforward. Just a little hindsight for new players, you cannot equip artifacts at instant speed unless they say so. But otherwise, you only can equip at sorcery speed. Just remember that. Moving on to 3 cards to audition. This is a segment where I encourage you to play test these cards in your deck building and let me know how they go. Do they work? Do they not work? Well, here are my suggestions. First up, we have Halana, Keswick Ranger. 3 colors, 1 green. It's a 3/4 legendary human archer. She has reach. And whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may tap 2 mana. When you do, that creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature. She also has the partner mechanic. So whenever you put down a creature, pay an additional 2, and you can literally deal damage to another creature. It's almost like the fight mechanic. So it's a great way to target specific creatures to get them off the battlefield when you have big, stompy creatures that you're putting onto the battlefield. Next up. Next up is Mark of Sakiko. It is an enchantment creature. It's really an aura. It's an old school card. For 1 color, 1 green. It reads Enchanted creature has whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, add that much green mana to your mana pool. This mana does not cause mana burn. Until end of turn, this mana doesn't empty from your mana pool as phases end. Okay, so the ruling that most new players need to know is mana pool, your mana generally phases out during each phases. Your mana pool empties during each phase. This card skips that ability. So your mana pool does not empty out. So you can go through phases remaining with this much green mana. Okay. So whenever you deal combat damage to a player, you add that much green mana. So if you swing with Ghalta and you hit somebody for 12, that means on your post combat main phase, you get 12 green mana. Actually, you get 12. Yeah. You still get 12 green mana on the end of your combat phase. Then you go to your post combat main phase. Yeah, that gets really ugly. This card should actually be in a Anzrag, the Quake Mold deck. But heck, you're gonna need green mana to cast your commander straight up. So put this on another big clunky creature that you have, so you can mana accelerate and put Galta onto the battlefield. Next up, we have Vivian Champion of the Wilds. It's a for 2 mana, actually 2 colors, a green. It's a legendary planeswalker. Let's see here. You may cast creatures spells as though they had flash. Then it has a +1 until your next turn. Up to one target creature gains vigilance and reach. It has a -2. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Exile one face down and put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. For as long as it remains exiled, you may look at that card and you may cast it if it is a creature spell. Okay, here. Straight up, I'm putting this in to give your creatures the flash ability. You got to add some element of surprise to your opponents. Put them on guard. It's too obvious and too predictable on your turn when you're going to cast your commander. You're literally at a disadvantage because somebody could attack you and you could put out. You could have any creatures, but if you have the ability for flash, you could put out a 12/12 and whatever else is included. Thank you for watching another episode of Breaking Brews with your host, Commander Claw. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the content or you have something to share.